No news conference, although we did talk to a firefighter a little while ago. There's a grim huddle going on at the foot of the hill where I'm standing right now. Included in that number, the fire chief, the public relations officer, several battalion chiefs of the fire department. They have not yet made the official, the official but expected announcement on the fate of the 6 firefighters who are on the scene, apparently working hoses very close to a trailer full of ammonia nitrate when it exploded. The aerial survey indicates that the only thing left out of the 2 fire trucks on the scene is the front end of 1 pumper. Everything else is gone. So again, no official confirmation on the deaths, but it is all but certain now. It is a very emotional time for Kansas City's firefighters.
Steve, I know that initial concern...
In a word, this is something that is hard to talk about.
Do you have confirmation on that?
No, I don't know.
I'm sorry, Catherine?
Steve, I apologize for interrupting, but I know that initial concern, and justifiably so, is those 6 firefighters. Let's ask you again, if we can, what, if all, is being done about that 45,000 pounds of remaining ammonium nitrate and dynamite in the area?
I've had no word back on those magazines. They were seen earlier, and apparently there is some sort of announcements going on now at the bottom of the hill. There were reports earlier of 2 other magazines or storage containers full of dynamite. There have been no further explosions, and so...
Okay, Steve, why don't we let you go on down to whatever's happening down the hill. There may be some important information, and we'll stand by with as I give out more information. Go on down there, and thanks for that report.
All right, Catherine.
We do have some other news that is concerned to people.
The pickup truck had been set on fire, and also the storage shed where a lot of explosives were being kept were on fire. There's now a very serious concern about arson.
Steve, were those security guards there at the construction site because of the amount of explosive material being kept there?
Yes, this is a major construction site. They're building the Crosstown Expressway up here, and all kinds of equipment, all kinds of explosives. So 24-hour a day guards are kept here. They work separately as they patrol, but sometimes when they have cause to think they've got a problem, they team up. So, you know, they're more power through number.
Initially, as we reported, those 2 security guards were some concern. The fate of those guards, as we all know by now, they are alive and well. I take it now they are talking to police and firefighters? Oh, yes,
primarily police. It's an arson matter, and they are divulging whatever information they have to share. But it now looks like a very strong possibility that these fires were deliberately set, and of course, what a tragic outcome. 6 lives have been lost.
Certainly is, Steve. We know a very emotional moment at this time.
And we met a security guard, 2 security guards, I believe. And I asked my driver to pull up beside them to ask them what they knew, and he decided he would get out and go over and ask them. This was probably a quarter of a mile from the impact area. And as he got out and walked over, I saw one firefighter come out with a line that looked close enough. I really couldn't see how close the apparatus were from my vantage point. Couldn't see but one of them, and just the lights on it. And as I reached for my radio to radio them to leave the area, because I'd been told as I left also that we had a danger of an explosion. And at that time, the impact blew the windshield of my car down in my face.
Well, about all I can add is we were engaged in another, it was the second alarm fire of a long night. The second alarm fire at 12th and Woodland, whenever we heard the explosion there. And my dispatchers alerted me, and I had placed that fire under control and told our dispatchers that we were responding to the fire Chief Sherman had. I'd asked that
What you are watching is a live report from City Hall, a very emotional report from fire officials going over what happened this morning. The names of those 6 firefighters who died are expected to be released, and we will continue to bring you live pictures and audio from this emergency meeting at City Hall.
Moved our command post up there, after which a secondary explosion did occur. And at that time, we called in for a life flight helicopter, and Chief Gross and an individual from the, you remember his name, Logan, from the construction company who was knowledgeable about the explosives in the area. They both made an aerial reconnaissance of the area. It's still dark, of course, and to see what fires remained, and to see if they could find, determine what the explosives were still on the scene, and the potential there for a further explosion. Upon their return, we determined that probably the magazines were intact at least, but the dynamite and the caps, and they were still intact and removed. At that time, we wanted to find the Butleys. Chief Logan and I went to the scene in the dark and found most of them, and we went back later and found the rest of them. About all I can have.
Well, from our perspective, as far as the investigation of the incident, we all pretty well held back until daylight because we didn't know what we had down here at all. And after daylight did come about, I looked it over a little bit and saw what it was, and it was pretty well determined to be a crime scene at that time. We did ask for the Alcohol Background Firearms group to come in, and they did. And I guess Chief Joyner basically handled the crime from now on.
So, sir, that's his fire department report at this time.
Why don't we hear from the Chief of Police, and then the council members would like to ask questions.
Sharon, what was that?
Chief.
We got the call shortly after the fire department did, shortly after 4 o'clock. And as soon as the 2 explosions occurred, the first explosion, what we call
a charred skeleton of a fire truck. There was a second truck. Of that, nothing remains. It was an explosion that woke up a whole city, an explosion that took 6 lives.
The scene of this tragedy was a construction site just east of South 71 Highway and Blue River Road. The construction site was adjacent to a limestone quarry, an undeveloped area, but only a mile and a half northwest of the Bannister Mall. Explosives were stored there for construction of the Bruce Watkins Memorial Drive.
And tonight, firefighters are investigating the deadly blast as a case of arson.
TV5's Steve Dawson has been at the scene since early this morning when the whole drama began. Steve?
Lily, I'm standing in front of the quarry right now, and as you can see from the traffic moving behind me, 71 Highway is again open for the first time in 13 hours. And as you can also see around me right now, it is getting dark and cold again, almost as dark as it was 13 hours ago when this drama began unfolding. After 4 o'clock this morning, an explosion that could be heard and seen as far away as 50 miles shook the city. This woman lives less than a mile away. It shook her out of bed. She walked outside and 46 minutes later watched and heard the second explosion.
And I could see white smoke and flame kind of coming up in it. And then I thought, well, maybe it might have been down the hill. So I ran, got in my car and drove down. At that time, there were really no police cars coming. And I got back up the hillside and looked back out. And my brother was there at the time. And I don't know the span of the time of the second explosion, but the police officer and my brother and myself, both at the same time, all looked down there, and it was like a pit, putting a log in it with sparks just flying everywhere. And it was just a mass. And then all at once, this black cloud came up like a mushroom.
Police shut down a couple of miles of 71 Highway, evacuated just a handful of homes that lay just east of the explosions, fearing that there would be more explosions. And we waited for daybreak so a chopper could fly overhead for a look, and 2 firefighters on foot could move in to check for the 6 missing firefighters. There were no survivors. The firefighters were standing less than 50 feet from the burning trailer filled with 30,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate, a liquid high explosive. Battalion Chief Marion Gurman, his driver, and the 2 security guards assigned at the construction site were 300 yards away. They were shaken but not seriously hurt.
He said they arrived at the time the 2 companies were battling the trailer fires, and there was quite a bit of fire, very hot, and before he could get out of his car to caution them to back away in case there was such a thing possible, the explosion occurred.
Police immediately consider the catastrophe a crime scene. It's being investigated by the murder squad. The local bomb squad, ATF, the federal bomb squad, went in first. And about 12:30 this afternoon, a contingent of firefighters rolled in. Their job was the hardest one today, to bring out the remains of 6 of their friends.